Have you ever noticed that moment when someone makes you feel invisible? That split second when your idea is ignored, then repeated by someone else to immediate approval? It's not in your head, it's not your imagination, and it's not an accident. Watch what happens when someone genuinely respected enters a room. They don't demand attention, they don't announce their importance, they simply exist and everyone listens. Their ideas are valued, their boundaries honored, their presence acknowledged without effort. Now look at you, giving your dignity away like it's worthless. Every yes when you mean no is sawing through the spinal cord of your self-respect. Look around you. The most admired people in your life are simply the most effective at refusing to be diminished. Feel that thunderstorm brewing in your chest when someone casually dismisses your boundaries? Society calls it being too sensitive. Bullshit. That's your last remaining fragment of self-worth, gasping for air, drowning in the flood of your endless accommodation. Your brain's powerful threat detection system cannot distinguish between physical attacks and social disrespect. Both trigger the same primal survival mechanism. When someone dismisses you, your amygdala lights up instantly. Your cortisol levels spike. Your heart rate accelerates. This isn't emotional sensitivity. It's biological programming designed to keep you alive. I still remember the metallic taste of blood in my mouth from biting my tongue when a superior took credit for my work. The way my skin burned hot with shame as I smiled and said nothing. The heaviness in my limbs as I dragged myself home, exhausted not from work, but from the constant performance of agreeability. Do you recognize this feeling? With every instant text response, with every dropped plan to rescue others, with every emotion you suppress to keep the peace, you're donating pints of your lifeblood to people who wouldn't even look your way if you were hemorrhaging before them. You walk into rooms making yourself small, apologizing for the oxygen you consume, while watching those who take up every cubic inch of space being rewarded for their audacity. Stand in front of your mirror tonight. Look at what remains of you after everyone has taken their piece. What's left? The hollow shell of someone who traded their dignity for the temporary comfort of approval. Look at yourself. You're a masterclass in self-betrayal. You smile at the boss who steals your ideas. You nod appreciatively when relatives belittle your choices. You dilute your brilliance to keep mediocre people comfortable. And for what? The pathetic hope that if you swallow enough shit, they'll eventually treat you like a human being? This isn't just a habit, it's self-annihilation disguised as politeness. 4 years ago, I collapsed in a bathroom stall at work after a meeting where I'd been talked over 14 times. I counted. My heart raced so hard I thought I was dying. That day I realized my accommodating nature wasn't a virtue. It was a slow suicide. My body was screaming what my mouth wouldn't say. You're performing an ancient ritual of self-sacrifice on the altar of false harmony. But here's the brutal math no one taught you. This approach is like trying to fill a bathtub by slitting your wrists underwater. The tub will never fill, but you'll drain yourself to the point of collapse. You're like a farmer who gives away the entire harvest and wonders why you're starving by winter. Each compromise is another basket of crops handed out without payment. Each boundary you surrender is another acre of fertile land you allow others to claim as their own. No wonder there's nothing left to sustain you. From your first day of school, where you learn to raise your hand for permission to speak or use the bathroom, to your adult workplace where you need approval to take vacation days your labor has already earned. You've been systematically trained to seek permission to exist. This isn't an accident, it's architectural. Dr. Aaron Beck, father of cognitive theory, discovered through decades of clinical research that the greatest cause of suffering is the belief that you must earn the right to exist in others' eyes. Does that hit too close to home? It should. Calculate it with me. The exact cost of a lifetime spent without dignity. The promotion you didn't receive because in the critical meeting, you softened your brilliant idea with, "This might be stupid," but the relationship where you taught someone exactly how to hurt you by showing them which boundaries they could violate without consequence. The health you've sacrificed through the chronic stress of silent dignity violations, the unexplained exhaustion, the persistent anxiety, the sleep that never quite refreshes. Remember that coworker who speaks over you in meetings? Watch them at lunch. Notice how they instantly defer to the boss while steamrolling everyone else. That's not personality. That's a calculated assessment of who deserves respect and who doesn't. And everything about your behavior has taught them which category you belong in. Every time you surrender your boundaries, you're not being mature or professional. You're signing a contract in your own blood that reads, "I am worth less than your comfort." And the human predatory instinct recognizes this signature instantly. We are hardwired to exploit what yields easily and respect what resists conquest. The psychological devastation compounds daily. You're not just losing arguments, you're losing yourself. Each surrender rewires your neural pathways until disrespect feels like home. Your sense of self isn't just diminishing, it's being systematically executed through 1,000 tiny accommodations. You're a house left unlocked in a neighborhood of thieves. Everyone enters uninvited, takes what they want, rearranges your furniture, and leaves muddy footprints on your floors. Then you clean up after them and wonder why they never wipe their feet or knock before entering. The problem isn't their disrespect, it's your open door policy. You've been living in a house with unlocked doors, wondering why people walk in and take what they want. Now it's time to look deeper, not just at the house, but at the foundation it's built on. Rip away the polite veneer of human interaction, and you'll find the savage machinery working beneath every conversation, every relationship, every social hierarchy. Here's the devastating truth you've never been told. Respect isn't something you earn through achievement, position, or behavior. It's something you've been systematically trained to give away through thousands of subtle self-betrayals. This machinery operates through what behavioral psychologists clinically call reciprocity dynamics. But let's call it what it really is: psychological combat, primal, merciless, and happening every second of every day. When you freely surrender your dignity, it becomes instantly worthless. Value evaporates the moment it's given without requirement. Think of every interaction as a poker game. You're sitting at the table of life, playing with your dignity as chips. But while everyone else holds their cards close, you're showing your entire hand to the table, announcing your moves in advance, revealing your strategy to anyone who looks your way. Then you wonder why you keep losing. Meanwhile, the players across from you hide their intentions, bluff strategically, and walk away with everything you've placed in the pot. Throughout human history, from concentration camps to corporate boardrooms, the players who command respect aren't those with the best cards. They're those who play their hand strategically. Viktor Frankl observed this in Nazi concentration camps. Certain prisoners commanded respect from both fellow inmates and guards, not through dominance, not through superior position, but through the one quality that the game is designed to eliminate: the refusal to show their hand until absolutely necessary. What makes this game so predictable? Inside every human brain, yours and everyone you interact with, runs a primitive algorithm that calculates dominance with ruthless precision. When you interact with someone, their neurological circuits are making lightning-fast calculations. How much can I take from this player? How little can I give in return? What's the minimum ante required to keep extracting value? This isn't calculated evil. It's biological programming etched into our DNA from when resources meant survival. As Dr. Robert Cialdini documented in his research on influence, the human brain categorizes all resources, including respect, based on scarcity value. What floods the market crashes in perceived worth. Your worth in this social marketplace functions exactly like currency in an economy. Print too much money and inflation renders it worthless. Make your attention, validation, and accommodation too easily available, and watch how quickly your social value plummets to zero. When your dignity is available without condition, it becomes as valuable as oxygen, essential but completely taken for granted. The game's most insidious rule is that the more you signal self-abandonment through posture, voice, verbal habits, and behavioral patterns, the more you trigger an unconscious exploitation response in other players. Not because they're inherently predatory, but because their brains have evolved to register you as someone who has already folded their hand before the betting even begins. This explains why you've been losing a game you didn't even know you were playing. You've been moving your chess pieces to protect everyone else's king while leaving your own exposed. You sacrifice your knights, bishops, and queen to avoid taking their pawns. Then you wonder why you keep getting checkmated. It's not that you're bad at the game, it's that you've been playing with the wrong objective all along. Here's the revelation that will either destroy you or liberate you. You are not the victim of others' disrespect. You are its architect, engineer, and builder. You have constructed the table, arranged the cards, and established the rules that ensure you lose. You've built your cage with such precision that those around you simply assume it's where you belong. Now that you see how you've built your own cage, it's time to understand why this architecture feels so familiar, so natural, despite causing you so much pain. Everything you've been taught about respect is deliberately engineered backwards to keep you confined within the game you're designed to lose. The rulebook itself is rigged. Society sold you a poisonous fairy tale. Respect is a gift given to the worthy, earned through endless accommodation. You've been trained to believe you must prove yourself deserving of basic dignity through achievement, through compliance, through constant self-improvement. The forbidden truth they're terrified for you to discover. Respect isn't earned, it's taken. It's not requested, it's demanded. It's not a reward for your goodness. It's the tribute paid to your power, not flexibility, but strategic rigidity, not availability, but calculated absence, not emotional reaction, but predatory patience. The reason some players naturally command respect while others beg for it their entire lives isn't about holding better cards or knowing fancier moves. It's about whether they've been initiated into the most forbidden knowledge in our culture. That dignity is your birthright, not your achievement. You've been trained to behave like domesticated prey, making yourself small and non-threatening, hoping the predators will be merciful. But in the wild, what happens to creatures that signal submission? They're eaten first. The apex predators, those who command respect, aren't the most accommodating. They're the ones who display their power without apology. Watch who commands respect in any room. It's never the person desperately trying to please everyone. It's the one who would walk away without blinking. It's not the one explaining and justifying their existence. It's the one who treats their presence as the prize others must earn. As Dr. Helen Fisher's research demonstrates, human attraction and respect aren't triggered by accessibility, but by intermittent reinforcement and challenge. Her brain imaging studies revealed that the regions associated with valuation light up most intensely, not when experiencing consistent positive feedback, but when encountering strategic withdrawal and challenge. Respect functions like electricity. It doesn't flow to the path of least resistance. It's precisely the resistance that creates the power. A wire without resistance can't generate light or heat. It simply allows the current to pass through without effect. Your endless accommodation isn't conductivity, it's invisibility. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. The domestication machine exists precisely to prevent this acceptance, because a human being who fully accepts themselves can no longer be controlled through the promise of conditional approval. Now that you understand the rigged game and recognize your role as both prisoner and architect of your cage, the question becomes, how do you break free from a system you've been conditioned to uphold? What I'm about to describe isn't a self-improvement plan. It's an existential initiation, a death and rebirth of your fundamental relationship with yourself and the world. This is how prey transforms into predator, how the domesticated reclaims their wild nature. I'm about to hand you psychological weaponry so powerful it should be classified. This isn't a self-help band-aid. It's a complete rewiring of your existence. But be warned, once you begin this process, every relationship in your life will either transform or disintegrate. There is no middle ground. Stage 1, the boundary excavation. Your boundaries haven't just been violated. They've been deliberately buried beneath years of accommodation. Like an archaeologist at an ancient site, you need to exhume them from the graveyard of your people-pleasing. Start by tracking your body's silent rebellion. When your stomach knots as someone speaks over you, when your jaw tightens as someone dismisses your input, when exhaustion floods you after certain interactions. These aren't random physical responses. This is your body screaming what your mouth has been conditioned not to say. Your body keeps a score of every time you've abandoned yourself, every moment you swallowed your truth to keep peace, every time you spoke with a question in your voice when you meant it as a statement, every instance you let someone take credit for your idea rather than claim it yourself. You're like an animal whose natural warning systems have been disabled. The electric fence that should protect your territory has been unplugged for so long, you've forgotten it exists. It's time to restore the current. Stage 2, the predatory pause. With your boundaries unearthed and warning systems reactivated, you're now ready to deploy your first active defense. This isn't about confrontation. It's about strategic disorientation of those who expect your compliance. When someone oversteps, deploy the weapon they never expect: silence. Let it stretch uncomfortably. Watch them squirm in the void where your accommodation used to be. Then deliver your response with the calm precision of a surgeon. No, that doesn't work for me. I've decided against it. No justifications, no apologies, no emotional hooks they can use to manipulate you back into compliance. Think of yourself as a master chess player. The amateur reacts immediately to every move. The grandmaster pauses, considers, and often makes the unexpected play that forces their opponent onto unfamiliar territory. Your silence is the move they never prepared for. Stage 3, the consequence architecture. Your restored boundaries and strategic pauses form the foundation, but they're worthless without enforcement. This is where psychological revolution becomes physical reality, where the blueprint becomes the fortress. For each boundary, design a consequence that you will execute with the emotional detachment of gravity. Not as punishment, but as natural law. When someone interrupts you, you stop speaking entirely and exit the conversation. When someone demands immediate responses, they receive systematic delays. When someone dismisses your input, they lose access to it entirely. You're installing security systems around the perimeter of your worth. Not hostile gun turrets, but clear, consistent consequences that make violation more costly than respect. Like an electric fence that delivers a predictable shock, your consequences must be immediate, consistent, and proportional. Stage 4, the power expansion. Now we move from defense to offense. You've established your territory, installed security systems, and trained others to respect your boundaries. But true transformation requires expansion beyond mere protection. Begin making requests instead of accommodations. State preferences instead of accepting defaults. Claim time, space, and energy as your fundamental rights rather than privileges to be granted. Watch how people who previously dismissed you suddenly find you difficult. That's the sound of their dominance algorithm encountering an error message. You're no longer a convenience store open 24/7, where anyone can walk in and take what they need. You've become a high-end boutique, exclusive, valuable, and requiring proper investment to access. The price of your energy has risen, and the market is adjusting to your new valuation. The most unexpected result will be how certain relationships begin to thrive while others wither. Those who valued you only for your utility will vanish like smoke. Those with the capacity for mutual respect will be magnetically drawn to the authentic power you're now emanating. As your transformation progresses from excavation to expansion, something remarkable begins to happen. The framework you've built externally begins to change your internal landscape. Your eyes snap open tomorrow morning, but you're not the same creature who went to sleep. The lion who lived as a lamb has remembered its nature. Something has fundamentally altered in your psychological architecture. Not the fragile ego mask of false confidence, but the bone-deep certainty that comes from reclaiming your power from the exact places you surrendered it. You move through the world like gravity has changed. Conversations that once drained you now fuel you. Requests that once triggered panic now evoke crystal clarity. Your no carries the weight of natural law. Your yes arrives as a gift, not a surrender. The contrast shatters everything around you. Before, criticism would rip through your psyche like shrapnel, leaving you bleeding self-doubt for days. Now feedback bounces off the titanium shield of your self-knowledge. You extract what serves you and discard the rest with the casual indifference of a god separating light from darkness. Some will call you selfish, difficult, changed. These accusations are the death rattle of their control over you. When a prisoner escapes, the warden doesn't celebrate their freedom. When a domesticated animal reclaims its wild nature, the handler doesn't applaud its liberation. The most profound realization isn't just how others respond to your transformation, it's how you experience yourself. The exhaustion of constant performance lifts. The background anxiety of perpetual people-pleasing fades. In its place arises an unfamiliar but intoxicating sensation, the peace that comes from internal congruence. This internal peace is powerful, but it must be protected through daily practice. The system that domesticated you for decades won't surrender its control without resistance. The revolution begins in the next 24 hours, not with manifestos or declarations, but with a single surgical strike against your lifelong conditioning. This is where theory transforms into practice, where knowledge becomes power. Identify one boundary that's been violated repeatedly, one where your power has leaked away drop by drop. Perhaps it's the colleague who sends urgent requests at 9 p.m., the family member who volunteers your time without asking, the friend who arrives chronically late, stealing hours of your life. Don't announce your boundary like a prisoner begging for better conditions. Execute it with the silent precision of an assassin. When the late-night message arrives, let it sit unanswered until morning. When the family member volunteers you, simply say, "I won't be doing that," and offer no explanation. When the chronically late friend arrives, be gone, having already started without them or moved on entirely. What follows will be your initiation by fire. Your throat will constrict, your heart will pound. Every alarm system installed by your conditioning will blare warnings of rejection, selfishness, failure. This isn't weakness, it's withdrawal from the most powerful drug ever created, others' approval. The question isn't whether you can earn respect, it's whether you're willing to stop abandoning your dignity in the desperate hope that someone will eventually hand it back to you. This journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to fear your own presence, before you traded power for safety, authenticity for acceptance, dignity for belonging. The dignity revolution begins with you, not through fighting against external systems, but through the simple, radical act of refusing to continue your lifelong practice of self-abandonment. What will you do now that you know?